So it was quite a significant point of American history to mark the shift, the transition from previous generation to baby boomer generation. Back then, the popularity of George Bush wasn't that high, but until Osama bin Laden tape came up during October surprise.
I remembered being so impressed by this person whose name is Barack Obama.
I know.
Well, I say to them tonight,
There is no liberal America. There is no conservative America.
There is the
United States of America. Whoa. I feel proud listening to him. I'm not American. Who would have thought that Donald Trump would be shot?
I know.
Who would have thought that Joe Biden would pull down?
I know.
Right? Who would have thought Elon Musk would suddenly become the number one cheerleader of Donald Trump?
Allan Lichtman, 13 keys to the White House.
For 10 elections, he got it all right except one. So
Okay.
it wouldn't reach the 6 or more falses
Criteria.
of his, and that would mean the incumbent.
This is Community Featuring. My name is Vic and welcome to the show. Today is a very special episode and I'm very excited and honored to be in the presence of the two great ladies of the news from the Standard. So today we're talking US election and US president. And I really want you guys to get into this and know how fun, how interesting it is to follow US politics these days and specifically for this upcoming US election in 2024. So please welcome to the show พี่เผยและพี่เต๋าครับคุณณัฐฐากมลวทินและวินารัตน์ลาวหภคกุลสวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Philippe. So nice to see you again.
So nice to see both of you. Welcome back to the show because you've been on the show once.
Yes.
But you're a first timer
My very
here.
first time.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming พี่เต๋า
สวัสดีค่ะพี่บิ๊ก
สวัสดีครับ
Yeah, very humble and honored to join your program.
Of course. So today we are going to have so much fun and there's a lot of things to cover too. So today we're talking about something that is pretty, well, physically far away from us, like 16 hours flight. If you want to go there, it's so far away. And yet it's very close in so many contexts, right? Because everything happens over there will eventually affect somehow over here also. Yeah. So first of all, you have been doing the international news for so long. So how long for both of you? When was the first time that you covered U.S. election?
U.S. election, I think I have to go back to the year 2000.
Right.
Al Gore and George W. Bush. Because it's a never-ending election back then because the result was not known on that day, which was very unusual. Usually we would know it on that day, what the electoral votes are, the final results, but not that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting.
For
We'll
me-
go into that in detail later.
Yeah,
Tita, do you
it's very
still remember
controversial.
that election?
Yeah, I still remember that year. But for me, I'm older. So I like to trace back to 1992.
Okay.
It was during my undergraduate years, and I had so much interest on US politics. And that
Okay.
year, Bill Clinton won over the candidate. So I kind of supported Bill Clinton back then,
Right.
and like to see how he will fare on the world stage.
I
And
see.
he like did so many things, especially on his famous sentence. It's the economy stupid. Yeah, so that's become like motto of many candidates in
I
the US
see.
election.
Yeah. So for speaking of U.S. elections, we all know that there's two big major parties, right? Republican and Democrats. So for all the U.S. presidents, do you see any stereotypical character or personalities when it comes to presidents from each parties? Like if is the Democratic president, he or she would look like this, or vice versa, like the same thing for Republican. Any special character?
I think in terms of characters, that is about personality. And I think each person has their own different personalities. I think they would differ because of ideologies and their beliefs and their values, which I think are very clear for Democrats and for Republicans. And not only their candidates, but also the people who actually support that party.
Right.
If you're a Democrat, you know, you would have certain ideas about certain issues. If you're a Republican, then you would have certain ideas about certain issues. So I think it's all about ideologies and where you stand on the issue that will divide whether you're a Democrat or Republican or an independent as well. You might not like both.
Yeah, right. Because actually, from all the history, if we count the presidents from each party, we have almost equal numbers. Because so far, the U.S. has had 19 Republican presidents and 16 Democratic presidents. So it's not that far away in terms of the numbers, and the rest are of other political affiliations like Park Week or something else, right? So some of the most popular and respected U.S. presidents could be from both parties, like Lincoln, he's Republican, and Roosevelt, Republican also. FDR, Roosevelt, Democratic, John F. Kennedy, Democratic, Reagan, Republican, Eisenhower, Republican, Obama, Democratic. So we can see from the track record that they're both equal in terms of like both president from both parties could be equally great in so many contexts, right? So let's go through all these elections from the past and tell us what you remember about them each time.
That's a lot, Pibik.
That's a lot. So we can
lots of
pick from,
information.
we can start from what Pita has mentioned
Yes.
earlier. Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, George ผู้พ่อ
George the father.
George the father.
Yeah.
He was like the first baby boomer U.S. president.
I see.
So it was quite a significant point of American history to mark the shift, the transition from previous generation to baby boomer generation. And Bill Clinton has done a lot in terms of economy, promote economic integration, and especially globalization
Right.
has become quite important, quite significant beginning during his time. So I think in terms of to see American being dominant power on the world stage during Bill Clinton, 8 years of Bill Clinton era is quite significant.
Right.
And not to mention his personal character, his charisma,
Yeah.
even though he has some scandal
Right.
about Monica Lewinsky, but overall, I think he make himself relatable and
Yeah.
connect so well with American public.
I see. But by the time they both ran, they were running for president, Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, who was hotter for the public?
We're talking about 1992, yeah?
1992.
I
yeah.
was in high school.
Okay.
So
okay.
that was like
what did you
a
remember?
Who
long
had
time
a better chance? Who's hotter? ใครมาแรงกว่ากัน at the moment? Because I understand that it was the first time running for Bill Clinton at the time, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's his first election. So
Yeah.
1992, I was still in high school, Pitao,
I was undergraduate student.
undergraduate student. So if I look back and then study this election, the year before 1992, we had the Persian Gulf War in 1990, and the U.S. and its allies won the war. So actually, George Bush Sr. should have won the election, right?
True. Yeah.
But then, as Pitao said, is the economy stupid? And so it is the prime concern of voters at that time because the economy was not doing so well. And then also the promise of George Bush Sr. not to raise taxes, but in the end, he did raise taxes.
Okay.
So I think economy-wise, people might think at that time that we should switch. We should try
Yeah.
this person
They,
called
they
Bill
were
Clinton.
disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Bill Clinton had an economic plan for them, which might sound better or more promising at that time. So I think that's how
Yeah.
Bill Clinton
I
won
think
the
it's-
election.
I think it's about his look as well.
That
like
as well.
Right.
Young man, good looking, and
Yeah.
with his oratory skill, when he delivered speech, it catch hearts and minds of American voters. I think that's quite crucial. And of course, it's the economy stupid has become like his very famous phrase. Yes, catchphrase all over the world.
Right. Okay, so cut to the year 2000 that you had mentioned earlier. Al Gore and George W. Bush. So this is the son of the previous Bush, right? So Al Gore and Bush in the year 2000. You said before it was a very special election. What do you remember about that?
Oh, it took such a long time, Pitao, if you remember as well, right? For everyone looking at this election, we thought it would be over. Like we would know the result real soon. But then it dragged on. And then, on all of the US television stations, it would say too close to call, or sometimes they call the state, they call the winner, and then they pull it back again.
Yes.
And change it?
Yeah, they changed it until in the end, the whole focus of the election was on Florida. The vote counting couldn't be finished until at the end it went to the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court said, we don't have enough time to recount everything, so let's stop here. And when you say stop, that's when George Bush Jr. won the election.
Wow.
Yeah.
By just hundreds of votes in Florida.
Wow.
So people who support Al Gore must have been like waiting with the question, what or who is really the winner? And I remember the US media cover a lot about Al Gore, about his personality, his character back then, full of beard and looked quite not promising because he'd been waiting and waiting for so long. And finally, the real outcome came out that George Bush Jr. won the election.
Yeah. So he could have been a US president.
Yes, he could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been. And then in his speech, he actually talked about how while he might not agree with the ruling of the Supreme Court, he accepted the ruling for the sake of the country so that the country can come together and move forward.
Yeah. A lot of people might still question that election to today because Al Gore has a lot of supporters too.
Yeah.
And he has done a lot. So skip to the year 2004. John Kerry and Bush. Kerry and Bush. What do you remember about that election? Was it a fun one to follow?
2004, let me think.
Not quite exciting. It's a bit like John Kerry and George Bush. But back then, the popularity of George Bush wasn't that high. But until Osama bin Laden tape came up during October surprise that he's still around, and it was the time that George Bush came out again to say something about Osama bin Laden, like what he said during 9/11. 2001. So it was the right moment for him.
That kind of up his popularity once more.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
To finally make it a big deal for him that finally he just win the election.
I think people don't want to change leaders during times of war or in a war mode.
Yeah.
Because 9/11 was in 2001 and then the election was in 2004. His second term.
Yeah.
So he had another war though. He had the Iraq war in 2003. Not that popular, but again, because of Osama bin Laden's tape, maybe that reminded people that, hey, this is wartime. We have terrorism going on. So let's stick with the current leader, with the
don't change the leader mid-war. That would be too smart. So it's pretty clear that Bush is going to win again at the time. All right. Fast forward to 2008. This is big. I remember this is the first election that I took interest in because he's the new guy. He's a guy of color. It's the first time that we heard of Barack Obama, and he could potentially be the first black president. And what do you remember about 2008?
Oh, I remembered being so impressed by this person whose name is Barack Obama.
I know.
But when he speaks, he's just so inspiring in every way. He's so powerful, you know, when he speaks.
And very eloquent too.
Very eloquent. Ever since the 2004 Democratic Convention, I think, when he talked about when he introduced himself, and then when he also talked about how there is no liberal America. There is no conservative America. There is the United States of America. Whoa, right? And then his whole speech. I feel proud listening to him. And I'm not American. I was like, wow. No wonder America is home of the free, land of the free, home of the brave. No wonder, you know, I feel proud. I feel moved by his speech. And so this is someone to watch. And then 4 years later, he won the election, and his acceptance speech in Chicago was equally moving as well.
I
what do you remember?
I remember that day. And during Obama year, the first competition as the U.S. president was 2008. It was the time that we were beginning to use Twitter a lot. So social media was influential back then. And Obama has his charm offensive in trying to convince American voters. And with his message that said, hope, change, like, yes, we can. Has become global catchphrase that people just buy into it, and people just feel like, oh, this guy has so much potential to bring ideology back to American politics, to American public. That's why I think, and the way he used social media so wisely, that's why he gained so much attention from young voters. His popularity just rose very, very fast.
And those words that you just mentioned, I can still remember. Change and hope. And yes, we can. This is so powerful and very simple. There's nothing fancy about it, and it's such a strong message.
And I think it's the way he delivered his speeches as well. He's a master at this. I think he's one of the best public speakers during our time, I would say, because of his intellect, because of his wits, his humor, you know, his he pieced everything so well together and so powerful in giving out speeches. You can feel it. It's not you can only hear it, but you can feel the powers of his words as well.
And the candidate from the other party, John McCain, he's not all that cool compared to Obama, would you say?
In a way, he has his own way. He was in the army before, and it has become his selling point that tried to convince Americans that he was in the war before.
He was a war veteran.
So each candidate has their own thing that they can advertise.
John McCain is charismatic in his own right, but when you compare him with Barack Obama, it's not that he's not good or anything. He's good in his own right, but in comparison at that
because
time.
That's what we do when we vote, right? We have to compare.
Yes.
This like both option that we have, and then we pick one.
I have just one more thing to add, and ผย will have very significant moment during Obama administration as well, because he won in 2008 and he won 2 terms. But during the campaign, he and Hillary Clinton fought so hard. Like they argued so much. But finally, when he became the president, he invited her to be Secretary of State. I found it's very striking moment for American politics that previous 4 has invited the 4 to become friends, to become partner in politics. I think it's quite beautiful in terms of politics of 2 politicians working together. And Hillary Clinton came to Thailand. You interviewed her as well.
She came in 2009, and Kun Sutishaiyun and I get to interview her. And I think that was one of my questions to her as well. You know, like, how do you feel being a competitor before, and now you serve in his cabinet, right, in his administration? And Hillary Clinton actually said, she got asked this question a lot, you know, but this is the American way. When the president asks you to serve for the country, to serve for the administration, then it's an honor for you to serve both the government and serve the country as well. So she became Secretary of State. Of course, Hillary herself is this bright lady, no nonsense. She's got a great sense of humor. So I think that team, Barack Obama and Hillary, I think that's a wonderful team.
Yeah.
She traveled just around the world in like short span of 4 years. She's one of the Secretary of State who traveled so much. And talking about meeting U.S. President, I met Obama twice.
Really?
During his years as U.S. President. Once in Bangkok in 2012 when he came during Yingluck administration.
Right.
And he came
Went to Wat Po.
Yeah, Wat Po. And he opened for the press to have Q&A at the government house. And he came to promote Pivot to Asia. And so I got to ask him the question about his plan to promote TPP in Asia. So for me, it was quite memorable moment.
Wow.
And the second time, I also meet him in 2016 at Sunnyland Summit. Because back then, not many US presidents pay much attention on ASEAN, especially ASEAN leaders. But he invited ASEAN leaders to join him in Sunnyland Summit. So it's another way to show that he's quite serious with his pivot to Asia and foreign policy about Southeast Asia. And of course, to counter rising of China. That's the plan of the US president.
I think if there should be any other person who can beat Obama in terms of being a very eloquent speaker, is his wife, Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Very charming.
Very charming, just equally eloquent, very moving. When they go low, we go high.
Yes.
Phrases like that.
People still remember that.
Yes. No, I was sitting here then listening to our conversation and think, who's better than Obama? Who's better than Obama?
His wife.
Yeah,
of
his
course.
wife.
And he's really good in giving compliment, praise Michelle Obama. I think he's very good.
They're a great team.
Promote his wife all the time.
Yeah, the dynamics between them, the husband and wife team. This is a power couple.
Yes.
I still remember the knuckle bump too.
Yeah.
Do you still? Yeah. That the first knuckle bump that we have seen in like U.S. politics when when he won or something like that they gave each other like knuckle bumps. That is pretty special. Yeah, and no wonder he's still one of the best presidents for like the world, not just American people. Yeah, and 2012 when he ran against Mitt Romney. Any question about whether or not he would win at the time?
Not quite outstanding for me, but back then people talked about that Obama didn't gain the lead that much. And I remember the presidential debate, the first one, he didn't do well because he has so much responsibility to do as the leader of the US back then. But the second time he did better during the presidential debate.
I see.
Yeah, but the moment was about hurricane that happened in 2012. And he went to visit those who faced disaster. And I remember senator of Republican Party, so forgive me if I got this wrong, but a politician from Republican Party came to see him and hug him. So that was the moment that it has become like another moment of Obama to win again in 2012.
Okay. All right. Do you remember anything from that election?
I think usually the American would vote with for the president to have 2 terms in office. If nothing goes terribly wrong, I think that's how usually the pattern would be that way. So I think for Obama against Mitt Romney and against that backdrop of helping people facing natural disasters, I think Obama still has the upper hand somehow. Might be a little bit more difficult for someone to challenge him. So he won the election once again, 2 full terms.
Right. Okay. And 2016, another big election because
We were in the US.
Yes.
there are like 2 very interesting candidates.
Yes.
One is someone who could potentially be the first lady president. And the other is like who is this guy? Like people still like question about like his legitimacy of being able to run as a president. So Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. What do you remember about that election?
Make America great again.
Yes, with the red hat, the red hat marker. Yeah.
Right? This is the tagline.
Right.
And it worked. And it worked. I think that was the year that all the polls got it wrong. That, actually in the end, it was Donald Trump who won. He was an outsider. That's how he sold himself. I'm the outsider. I'm not the establishment, the usual politicians. Aren't you bored of all these people? They don't understand what we want, right? This is how, he campaigned himself. And I think he won because he focused on the white working class, especially in the Rust Belt states, which Hillary Clinton might have taken for granted or overlooked this group of demographics. And I think he won those demographics by very, very thin margins. But in the end, the system is the electoral college, so he won it all.
Yeah, because actually Hillary Clinton won popular vote, but Donald Trump won because of easy electoral college, because the US election is not direct vote, but it's indirect voting system via electoral college. That's why he finally win the election. But we remember we were in that night that they finished.
Where were you?
New York.
New York.
Oh, okay.
And we were at Javits Center, the place that Hillary planned to announce her victory as the US president.
The party is being prepared.
Yes. It's like big party. People just light up. People just cluster there with upbeat mood.
Because they were so sure that they're going to win, right? Yeah.
All the polls said that. Most of the polls, I would say. Most of the polls said that Hillary Clinton would win. And then I think she chose the Jarvis Center in New York City because it has a glass ceiling. It has a glass structure so that she could say, I broke the glass ceiling. To be the first female president of the United States. But it didn't happen. She didn't even show up that night. Remember?
No.
She didn't even show up. Because she must be so shocked. I would imagine.
Must be quite heartbreaking. And I saw people cried. Many people cried that night at Javits Center because they couldn't accept that finally Trump would be the president of the United States.
People were actually laughing at Donald Trump. Remember when he popped up onto the political stage? Who is this guy? Oh, he's a businessman. He's a showbiz guy, right? The apprentice. He wants to run for election. Look at the way he talks about everything. He wouldn't make it. That's what people think. But he actually made it.
And he announced his victory at a hotel in New York. I still remember the moment he walked on the stage with his son. I think he couldn't even believe himself that he was finally the winner of that election.
That too. He was surprised as like the rest of us, I think.
So it's about 2:00 at New York. I still walk around the street during that night, and I saw people fought. People came at the corner of the street. One Democrat supporters and one Republican supporter. They were just like shouted at each other. They couldn't admit the outcome. So it was the sign that people couldn't admit that finally Trump was the president of the US. So it became like divided America.
Not just the America.
Police have to set up barricades around the streets in New York so that to separate people who support Trump and then people who supported Democrat or Hillary Clinton. So it was such an intense election, and then it was a shocking election in terms of the results as well. And then the world now knows Donald Trump. And then he's coming back again in this election, or he is trying to.
But before that, in 2020, he ran for the re-election too, and he was up against Joe Biden at the time. So did the result surprise you? That Trump lost and Biden won?
In a way, but probably I think American voters would want to say something because they learned it hard way from 2016. Pei just mentioned that a group of voters didn't vote for Hillary Clinton and she took it for granted back then. So probably politicians, the two candidates, learned it hard way. So Joe Biden has to visit swing states as much as he could because Hillary Clinton didn't visit like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, or North Carolina because she believed that she would gain the vote from female voters. But Joe Biden learned it hard way, so he has to work so hard. And with this swing state, we couldn't predict the outcome. And finally, he just win over Trump, but not without much margin.
Not by a lot.
No,
Okay.
not a lot.
Yeah, and I think it was because of COVID as well. COVID was a big issue, and then I think about 200,000 people died in the U.S. Right, and because of COVID, the impact is on the economy as well. So I think maybe people want to try someone else and not Donald Trump because of that, because he got criticized for how he handled and managed COVID, that so many people died. So I think that was why people chose Joe Biden then, because it's easier for the challenger to always criticize the incumbents, like, but is this a good job? You're not doing a good job, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so bringing us to 2024, which is this year, it's going to happen in the matter of weeks, I think. It's very close, right? So in November 2024, we're going to have a new president. And this time around is Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And we're going to be talking about this using the thing that we have come across, which is pretty interesting. Allan Lichtman, 13 keys to the White House. So do you want to tell the audience how this works?
So Professor Allan Lichtman is a professor at American University, but he graduated from Harvard. So he think out of this method of the 13 keys. So these are statements, 13 statements. Okay, all you have to do is answer true or false to these statements. And then if there are 6 falses or more, then the challenger would win the election. That's all.
That's it.
That's very simple.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these keys are like basically an approval for the job of the incumbent governments, whether or not you're, how do you approve, the management and the performance of the incumbent party. So these are the keys, and he used it for over 40 years. For 10 elections, the past 10 elections, he got it all right except one in 2000, Al Gore and Bush.
Okay.
Because at that time, he predicted that Al Gore
Would win.
would win.
Yep.
But then he lost on technicalities.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So maybe
so it's still
he might have
debatable.
won.
Yeah,
right?
you could debate that. I was right that time, but
Yeah.
So he basically he was always right about this. So
Yeah.
let's see if this time he's going to be right again. For this time around, maybe we can just take a look at all these 13 keys to kind of predict the election which is coming up. So the first one is party mandate. So there's this thing that is called midterm elections, right? So it would happen in the middle of the term, so 2 years in to the presidency of the sitting president. So if the president's party wins more seats in the House of Representatives during the midterm elections, then things look good for the sitting president. And it means they're getting stronger. So if this happens, the sitting president would win again. The thing is, did they get more seats?
No, they got less. So the answer would be false.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So
this
the
is
answer would be false.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's the first false.
The first false.
Yeah.
And the first one too.
Yes.
Okay. Number 2, the contest. So this means there's no serious contest for the incumbent party nomination, meaning there shouldn't be anyone in the president's own party seriously trying to take the nomination away from the sitting president.
True. Because it has
True.
always
Yeah.
been Joe Biden since the beginning.
Right.
No contest. No one actually nominate to compete with Joe Biden. Usually they don't do that, you know. They have to they give way to the sitting presidents if the person wants to go for re-election.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So,
Joe Biden decided to withdraw from the race and he endorsed Kamala Harris.
Right.
And it means the united of the Democrat Party because the whole party has to support Kamala Harris.
yeah. So that's the thing. If your party supports you and only you, that's a good sign, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Number 3 is incumbency. So it means the president who is already in the office is running for re-election, like you people said before. Usually, if this happens, people would go for this option. Like, if there's nothing like super bad happening during his term, okay, let's give this guy another try. We don't have to change a leader now, right?
Yeah. So the incumbent party candidate, which is Kamala Harris, is the candidate, but she is not sitting president. So it means false.
So this is false.
False.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the number 4, third party. So besides these two major parties, there's no other guys who's pretty like super hot, super popular, coming into the picture basically.
No.
No.
True. So it's true.
So it's true.
No
Yeah,
significant.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because the independent candidate, he support Donald Trump. So there is no third party candidate
Right.
significantly or outstanding at this
If you talk
juncture.
about significant, you would have to think about the 1992 election with Ross Perot in it as well. Yeah, with Bill Clinton, George Bush Sr., and Ross Perot.
Right.
And he got about 18 or 19% of the vote, and that was a lot for a third party candidate.
Okay.
But this time, no significant. No.
Right. Okay. Number 5, it says short-term economy. So basically, if the economy is doing okay, like people is not struggling for like their lives, like losing their job, the sitting president has a chance, right? Yeah. So this one is
It's true.
true.
It's not the U.S. economy is not in recession
Okay.
right now. So it's true.
So it's true.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And number 6 is long-term economy. What does it mean by like long-term economy here?
Real per
Mean
capita
growth.
economic growth during term equals or exceeds mean growth during the previous two terms.
Oh, so they're looking like 2 terms back,
Yeah.
and is on the rise. It's okay, right?
Equals or exceeds.
Okay. At
So-
least equal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's like
Or
over, like
exceeds.
on the way up,
So
that
they just
means the
add-
sitting president
yeah.
has a chance.
So it's true. Yeah, this one is true as well.
Okay. All right. Okay. So number 7, policy change. Basically meaning the sitting president or the sitting government has made some big important changes in the country that make people like notice.
According to Professor Lichtman, this is true.
Okay.
This one is true. According to him, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So what-
did he like
What's the policy
specify?
or national
didn't-
policy?
He didn't
Did he mention?
No, he did not.
Okay. Do you
Yeah.
remember anything significant in terms of like
Major changes.
introducing new policies into the public?
I think in terms of international politics, we would say that the way the United States like promote support for Ukraine and have gained momentum among allies, the US allies, if that consider the major change in terms of national policy, so that probably
that could count. Okay.
probably could be one of the national policy that the incumbent administration introduced during Biden administration.
People, what do you
Or
think?
maybe he actually have some acts out concerning the environment, concerning his green policy, that he is actually pushing the U.S. Industries into that direction. And there was a big act or a bill that came out for that. So I think you can say that is
That could be it.
a major change in national policy, because this policy is something that Donald Trump said he doesn't
Yeah.
actually support.
Yeah, he
So if
doesn't
he
even
becomes
believe in like
president-
climate change or.
That's very good point.
So
Right.
true.
So true for
True.
number 7. Number 8, social unrest. So there shouldn't be lots of protests or problems in the country for a long time, if things have mostly been calm without big issues or fighting, that's good for the president.
No social unrest, but of course there are a series of protests, especially among Arab Americans who support Palestinian because of Israel-Gaza war. We saw a series of protests happening all over America, but probably it's not like major social unrest for the whole country.
I see. Okay.
It's not exactly sustained. It's not that long term, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So nothing super serious
So this
and
is
damaging. Okay.
this is true.
True again. All right. Number 9, scandal. So basically, no scandal is helping the sitting president.
Yeah, no, I don't think they have any
None, right?
major scandal, no.
Right.
No,
Okay.
it's about the age of Joe Biden that Trump attacked him a lot on age, on his memory, on his character.
But it's
Yeah.
not exactly a scandal,
Not a scandal,
right?
No, not
Yeah.
a major scandal.
Okay. And number 10 and 11 is it has to do with the foreign policy. So foreign and military failure and success.
It's quite tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what Donald Trump attacked Joe Biden a lot is about withdrawal of American troops out of Afghanistan and left the country with chaotic situation. So that could be part of foreign or military affairs.
But does
happening
it
during
seem
Biden.
is it seen as a failure?
not only a failure, a major failure.
A major failure.
Yeah.
Right.
Would you consider that a major failure?
Is
you know,
it
that's
to you?
debatable, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's debatable because Biden said it's the great success that the US administration has already shaped narrative in Afghanistan already. So it was the right time to pull the troops out of the country.
But the way he pulled
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
It's problematic.
Right.
So the
So what did
incumbent administration
Allan
suffers.
Lichtman say?
He skipped this,
Oh,
actually.
what? Really?
He skipped this.
So
Yeah, he skipped foreign military failure and success. He skipped both. He said it is tricky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there's no absolute answer, true or false, on these two.
For him, he
Right.
didn't. Yeah.
Okay.
He didn't give any answers for this.
Debatable.
And the success, anything successful that is very noticeable or worth mentioning for Biden in terms of foreign policy?
No.
No, none.
No.
Right?
No major
No.
success.
Okay.
I don't think there's a major success at all.
I see.
The war in Ukraine is still going on. The Middle East war is still going on. I don't see any major success. But yeah, so I think this is false, for
False.
me.
Okay.
For me.
All right.
Achieves a major success? No, I would say false.
Okay. So number 12 is incumbent charisma. So this is this tricky? I'm not sure because charisma could be
Debatable.
viewed,
Very subjective,
from
yes.
from different people. So they said the current president is like charming, well loved, and considered like national hero of some kind.
So this would mean Kamala Harris, the incumbent party candidate, is charismatic or a national hero. She could be very charismatic among her supporters because she's from immigrant family. She's the first black woman from South Asian origin to contest in this very important election. So for many people and with her background as US senators, very highly successful in the office, probably be
Yeah.
seen as the
That's the charisma.
charismatic character.
What do you think, Pipei?
I think the word charismatic has more to do with personality. I would say Ronald Reagan is charismatic. Doesn't matter his ideologies, whether or not he's Republican or Democrat. Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, JFK. You know, these people are just born charismatic somehow. The way they
Yeah.
speak, the way they talk, the way they connect to people, the sincerity that they show. You know, people can easily relate to them. They're just charismatic. Pitao talks about Kamala Harris. I don't know. I'm not so sure. Because for me, charismatic people are like up there.
Yeah. The way they speak,
up there, right? Yeah,
the way
but
they show up on stage.
would I consider Kamala Harris like one of them? I'm not so sure.
Okay.
Michelle Obama to me charismatic.
Yeah.
Barack Obama, yes, and all
Right.
the
I
presidents
think
that
the
I
thing
mentioned.
is for charismatic people, you wouldn't even question whether or not they're charismatic. You can just tell, like,
Yeah.
this is a charismatic person.
And
And you wouldn't like, would she or is she or is he? You wouldn't question like that, right?
yeah, and I wouldn't dig deep into the background, whether where her parents or his parents are from,
Okay.
what type of job the person had before, A person walks into the room and then
You can
once
just
that
tell.
person starts talking, then you can, wow, this person is
Like
so
the aura
charismatic.
and-
Yeah, the aura
I
would
see.
show,
Shines through.
Okay.
right?
All right.
Yeah.
So
I see
for
what you
you,
mean. Yeah.
it's not true.
Yeah, for me,
Not, but for you, is it true that Kamala Harris has charisma?
I think she's above average. But if you compare
To like
Harris
JFK.
with Obama,
Yeah, or
that
Obama.
would be very different level.
Yeah.
But to be fair with her, she has like 107 days to campaign for the office. But it's still debatable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
tricky for me.
Right.
Yes.
The last one, challengers charisma. So now we're talking about Trump.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think Trump is a charismatic person? Does he have risks?
Of course. But for his supporter, he has his own
Again.
character and he could be seen as a national hero. Remember the way he communicated with his supporters, MAGA, before he like support for the race to Capitol Hill on the 6th of January in 2021. So for his supporter, he could be seen as hero, but
He
may
got
not
shot.
up to.
Shot, right? And then he
Right.
says, fight, fight.
Yeah.
People
Okay.
say he's
That's very
defending
good moment.
democracy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So some people
Yeah.
might say this is a
Yeah.
national hero. Yeah.
Yes. So, but it's debatable. National hero. He can be hero among his supporters,
Yeah.
but not national hero. So, still very subjective as well.
Right. So on charisma thing, so what did Allan Lichtman say?
I think on the incumbent party candidate, he said false
Okay, so no charisma for Harris.
For Harris.
Okay.
Yeah. And challenging charisma, the statement is the challenging party candidate is not charismatic or a national hero, not charismatic, right?
Or,
And he said true.
Okay.
So basically, none of
No
the
risk
candidates
for
are-
either of them.
yeah,
No
both of
charisma.
them are not charismatic,
Okay.
or
All right.
either national hero. Both of them
Okay.
are not.
I
According
see.
to
According
Professor
to Lichtman.
Lichtman.
Okay, so for all the 13 keys to the White House, what did Professor Lichtman say, like in
total, right?
in total, in summary?
Yeah, in summary, he said there are 3 falses, and then for foreign affairs,
Right.
there are 2, right? And he skipped both. So
Right.
even if both are false, let's say both are false, then there would be only 5 falses. So
Okay.
it wouldn't reach the 6 or more falses
Criteria.
of his.
And that would mean,
the incumbents would win. So he would
meaning
say
Democrat would win again.
exactly.
Which means Kamala
Harris
Harris.
would
Will
win.
become
Yeah.
the first black lady president, basically.
Yes.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what he
According-
said.
Yeah.
According to something that he's
Yeah.
been using for 40 years and basically never wrong.
Right.
Okay.
It's very fascinating though to learn about 13 keys to the White House.
Yeah.
It's not about statistics. It's about like feeling and how you judge whether it's true or false. But according to him, Kamala Harris is going to win.
But he said it's up to the voters as well,
Yeah.
to
Sure,
come out
sure.
and vote. And he never looked at polls at all. At all.
Okay.
Also, October surprise doesn't take that into account at
Yeah.
all.
I
He said
see.
this is like a performance evaluation of the incumbent government. Yeah.
ตรงไปตรงมาตามนี้ไม่มีอย่างอื่นมาเกี่ยวข้อง
ใช่ค่ะ
Wow. So if you want to hear more about US politics, of course, you can go and follow these two ladies on a show called Decoding the World, right? Because you guys have been talking about US politics and everything else too. Tell us about the show.
So we have been doing Decoding the World for 4 episodes already, and we've been focusing on the U.S. election because we think that this is a big election, again with a lady candidate, and again with Donald Trump, make America great again. So we think that this is a very interesting election, U.S. election, and there are so many things to learn about the election. That's why we're focusing on the U.S. election first, and then after that, I think we'll be talking about other international affairs as well.
Yeah. The program was launched in the middle of September, so we think it was about the right time to keep the Thai public informed about U.S. election because this election is historic election. It's the first time that we will see first black woman who have South Asian origin and to compete with Donald Trump, who was the former US president. So anything coming up will have implication on international relations, global arena, especially the stance of the US toward China would be very interesting. Who is going to be the winner and what's the policy that they will shape narratives of global politics in the near future.
Yeah, I think it's super fun. Like I said, this seems very far away from us, but it's fun because it kind of weaves into one big story that affects the whole world. Because of course, US is one of the biggest, most powerful country, and whatever they do over there, we have to kind of keep an eye on because it would play a big role into many things. So please go and follow Decoding the World because it's super fun, it's very insightful. I love the show and I'm sure you will too. So thank you so much for coming to Comedy today. It is something different. We have never done this before.
This is serious, yeah?
This is serious, yeah. But I think it's like I said, it could be like information overload for a lot of people. But if you kind of get into it, it's fun. It's storytelling. It's about people. It's about real people, and it's about winning each other. It's about strategies. It's about like mental war, and it has to do with a lot of things that I think is very interesting to follow.
This is better than any series, actually. Who would have thought that Donald Trump would be shot?
I know.
Who would have thought that Joe Biden would pull down?
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Who would have thought
Right.
that all of these things would happen? Who would have thought Elon Musk would suddenly become the number one cheerleader
Yeah.
of Donald Trump?
I know.
Right? So there are so many unexpected elements in this year's election. And even though it's only a short time away from the election, anything can happen. The suspense is always there.
True.
Right?
With October surprise, whether the war in the Middle East is one of October surprise, it can be debatable as well, or anything. I think from now on until the 5th of November, the two candidates will be quite aware what will be coming up. Any hidden audio tape or video will be revealed,
Yeah.
and that can be part of October surprise. But according to Professor Lichtman, October surprise doesn't count. And for him, Kamala Harris will be the winner.
Okay.
But we shall see.
Yeah, we shall see.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep our close eye on the show and the world. And on the night of the election, where would you guys be?
Of
Here.
course,
Will be
the
here.
night, on the 6th. The election is on the 5th of November, but we will have live program on the 6th of November.
Yeah.
The first thing
Following
in the
morning.
morning. Yes, but it will be nighttime of the US, and the result will be starting to come out from 8 o'clock at night in America. So we have program from 8 o'clock in the morning here. And it will be a very long day for two of us
Right.
and for
Yeah.
the whole world.
And
Keep
please
watching.
follow the standard and the standard news and พี่เผยและพี่เต๋า for this very special and interesting show that you will not want to miss. So thank you so much for joining us at Comedy today. ขอบคุณครับ
ขอบคุณค่ะ
ขอบคุณค่ะ